Quick video.
In this video, we are going to talk about the rebrand that pushed Bad Bunny to the next level. But really, we're going to talk about creative relationships and the creative direction of personalities. It's timely as we are about to see Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl, and there is a cultural conversation around him like never before. But also, this is something I've been looking a lot at personally, as someone who has gone from a normal person to an internet personality. And I've been noticing more and more kinships to what actually happens with musicians as we've gone on tour, begun thinking about our content and releases, had to think more about art direction beyond just the content being made online. And with that, in Southern California life, my friends are musicians, they're on reality shows, and more we're talking about how they can creative direct their career. And over the course of the last 2 years of sharing all the creative and marketing things I know, I've been hit up by countless artists and had a quandary I'm sure a lot of other creatives deal with. Should I be solving for them or for me? Which vision makes the most sense? So today we're going to talk about counter positioning. We're going to talk about the power of art direction inside developing a personality and in the music industry. We're going to talk about creative relationships and the role of having someone by your side as a personality, or the role of being a creative in someone else's world. We're going to talk about vision extension and how to create a movement that's larger than life, creative bravery in the modern era, and authentic, unapologetic cultural authenticity, and how staying true to yourself is helping people go more pop than ever. It's a bit different than any other video I've done, but still have those same through lines of tactical creative advice you can apply to your career, whether you are a personality yourself or whether you are on the creative side. We will have plenty of Bad Bunny's incredible graphics inside this video. Let's lock in. But first, I want to talk about positioning. I've used this term before in marketing. Basically, how your brand stands against the others that are in the market already that are established. Now, when you walk into a store, this is easy to think about. If you're launching a mac and cheese brand, you're positioning against Kraft mac and cheese. You can choose to position based on making a healthier option, a lower price alternative, specific ingredients, a look and feel like the liquid death position.
Marketing is really about how much money you're willing to spend and how much corporate or connections you have.
To say we're counterculture. But how does that work for a personality? When Bad Bunny entered the reggaeton category, he came in with a perfect example of counterposition. The current category codes were extremely hip-hop based and mainstream hip-hop. Cars, chains, ultra masculinity. And he came in with nail polish, pink hoodies, cross-dressing, but the same attitude and feeling. The album title,
I used to think he was, I remember this era.
HLQ, MDLG was a turning point for this, and it translates into I do whatever I want. And this wasn't just an album name, this was an operating system for how Bad Bunny as a personality approached this industry. But while loudly moving left when everyone else moves right, he immediately positions himself out from the crowd. And we've seen examples of this before. Tyler, the Creator, basically did it twice. First with the collective they have with Odd Future, which counterpositioned against the current hip hop at the time by being extremely in its skateboard roots, by being a collective, by being provocative, but also by just having all of its facets. Its ability to move back and forth between his music to Frank Ocean, the storytelling of individuals, the personalities in a way that we'd rarely seen in that era, especially from people so young. But then he repositioned this, rejecting every visual code, both of underground hip hop and of mainstream rap. Pastels, golf, preppy camp, flower boy aesthetics. Smart in several ways. It positioned him against himself, against the dark and angry lyrics that we saw prior, against the vision of Odd Future as something that wasn't safe for families or kids and your teens shouldn't be listening to. His brand is the anti-streetwear, and created a lane so strong it arguably didn't exist before, and took him all the way to collaboration with Louis Vuitton. Something stylistically, without this visual lane, never would have gotten there. And you can imagine, as someone fashion forward, and you're starting to look at that vision, it's not about where that vision is, it's about where it can take you. In 10 years, is this a vision that can collaborate with Louis Vuitton? There's data that came out this week about Bad Bunny's appearance at the Grammys did for Scarapelli's number. A Parisian couture house making a menswear look for reggaeton. Their first ever haute couture menswear look, and something that when you look at this initial vision, this initial counterculture, you can see all the through lines and how that would be embraced by modern fashion to where it gets to today. In female pop, Billie Eilish being a perfect example. Refusing the hypersexualized pop star uniform that we see again and again today. Baggy clothes, spider imagery. And when she does choose to do it years and years later, it's on her own terms. But that gives her the ability to collaborate with Nike, to be able to be an outlier versus the field. And this has more power than you'd think. Look at this in the guru world that I inhabit, in guru counter-signaling. Think of all the old marketing people you've heard talk about the things you learn from, and there's a certain demographic that will hear me in a House of Errors hoodie that says a lot about me and how I want to communicate to an audience versus what the field was prior. To be able to say, hey, the expertise doesn't necessarily come from the old guard now, from people whose fashion or look doesn't matter. People like Hormozy that position against that, against caring at all. But if you want to be good at marketing, you want to be in branding, you need to be in the know. Everything you say is a signaler. This whole presentation is a thing that embodies the taste that I have and why you would listen to me versus someone who doesn't care about the details. Which brings us to art direction over everything. You'll notice this transition in 2020 at the album I talked about, where all of a sudden Bad Bunny's videos became spectacle. The album shoots became mirroring what we see in the rise of streetwear and fashion that happened at the same time. And this now, for a large part, defines pop reggaeton in general. Rosalia is perhaps my favorite art-directed artist overall. She deserves her entire own video. But the combination of high fashion, religious iconography, execution of campaign, there's nothing she does that is not visually stunning. And the combination of the two of them and how visually driven they are, how every release looks like a fashion shoot, how every music video is an art form, set a standard for that entire niche. But it couldn't happen without this next segment, creative relationships. So this video is a little bit about Bad Bunny, but it's more about stills. A photographer that started as Bad Bunny's tour photographer at 21 and eventually became his creative director. This partnership became official around the 2020 music video release of Vete, and you'll see a specific creative vision in all the work that mirrors the creative director. You go back through Still's entire Instagram, you see all this shot on film and shot on Polaroid items that capture real life in a specific way. A lot of it of Bad Bunny, a lot of it of scenes from all around the life he's lived around interesting, fame-adjacent people. But there's a relentless connection to the moment. There's a focus on craft and that film narrative. But importantly, there's a story of the two of them going together. That's not just Bad Bunny's journey, you're just Still's journey. But we're basically watching the vision play out in music and visuals and amongst personalities that couldn't exist without the other. And in a world where anyone can be a creator, where we can all pretty easily attain some degree of internet fame, pop stardom becomes harder than ever. How do you rise out of the ashes, get your viral song, make your 100 clips again and again until something catches on, becomes a TikTok trending audio, then release proper visuals and continue forward? In the same way that if you are a photographer, a videographer, an artist, you're just chipping away to get whatever fame and work you can, utilizing these democratized platforms, but the power comes in numbers. One of the themes you'll hear me talk a lot about throughout this entire year is the theme of squads. That we don't want to follow just the one person. We want to follow the group. We're inherently more interested in how people interact, about the friend group that's online, but collaborations go so well. And they're algorithmically rewarded as well, because if you watch a video with someone, they do a collab video or show up in someone else's video, the algorithms test the audiences to each other. And if they like them, they cross-pollinate them. And it's why you'll see there's a relentless stream of TJR and Brez all the way to TJR and Chris Hain if you're operating in the male world. The same thing happening with Alex Hormozy and Tony Robbins. And a lot of this creator collaboration is based on the traditional music collaboration, on the guest verse or feature. There's a lot more that these have in common than you'd think. But for anyone who's in that creative field, you need a vehicle, whether that's a brand, whether that's a person, but tends to be not just your own stuff. Someone else to build on top of. Can you go creative direct inside of someone else's world, help them build that out and create something bigger than either of you could have done prior? We've become so self-reliant, we can do so much on our own, but there's less of that collaboration than ever. And if you look at this, Kanye West may be the most interesting example. Virgil Abloh, Takashi Murakami, Vanessa Beecroft, George Kondo, he didn't hire designers. He collaborated with artists, he brought them into his world, other producers, other people, operating around him at all times, helping propel his vision forward. And they all leaving with even more fame, recognition, inspiration, and understanding of how to navigate this world of fame, of music, of branding than they had before, even at the highest level. The Murakami graduation bears, an entrance point into a different world. Kanye elevated them, and they elevated him. And we haven't seen anything even remotely like it since. And it doesn't have to be that big. It can be what we see here, that one-to-one relationship. All right, so I want to help you add a skill to your toolkit today. So I'm going to give you an overview of how to do a competitive website audit in 2026 using the platform SimilarWeb. And you won't believe the info that you can actually get about competitive brand websites. And so if you have a brand visibility. So this is a big comment with their top significant referral traffic. So see what's being tested. And you can get all this merchandise branded bummed and surprised that I wasn't hit back on stuff because I was pretty good at the things I was doing. And then when I saw the full extent of the rollout, I was like, all right, touche. But it starts with we have to hunt for the vision. Then comes the people you are going to work on it with and what it could be. And then comes the cultural ways things move in the world now. And it has to exist in memes and shareability. It has to exist in leveraging the monoculture moments that we have left and the clipping of those. Boiler Room is a monoculture moment for a certain segment. Monoculture might not be the right word, but penetration of a subculture to its maximum amount. For the London, New York party megaplex, you hit complete saturation there, and there's enough tastemakers that can shift outward. The press moments, the collaborations, the generation people can take in their own hand, the physical artifacts people can pick up and buy, the popcorn buckets, the extensions into the virality of the world, the sphere. That's operating at the highest level. How can you operate at the level that you're at? If I think about my small town that I'm in, the handful of accounts that there are, the places where everyone congregates, you can begin to film a picture of what that universe looks like you can operate in. But it comes down to wanting to have that vision. Someone has to decide that they want to take it that far. This ties into creative bravery, because a lot of these campaigns weren't for everyone. Tyler, the creator, dressing like he did, saying what he said, for better or for worse, takes a significant amount of creative bravery. Bad Bunny going in full drag, getting involved in the politics of gender in both America and Puerto Rico, being in the ring for the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar choosing to go as hard as he did on a beef where he's essentially risking his life. This ties to that bigger trend of true authenticity. So one of the things I love to call out about Bad Bunny is that if you're in LA, you've ever worked in any kind of manufacturing warehouse, and if you know some of my past, we had a bunch of manufacturing in Los Angeles, in Arizona, and in Oregon. You'll remember that the only music everyone can agree on, why Bad Bunny is so popular in these areas, is that everyone in general, you're in any space like that, and you have a bunch of different cultures, everyone agrees on Bad Bunny. So it's constantly playing throughout that. But it's all in Spanish. There's no English crossover. And I like to run a parallel between Bad Bunny and BTS, the K-pop stars, who also are Korean language, Korean concepts, Korean cultural references. They refused to make English language albums to break America until very late in the arc. They made the infrastructure and the stardom theirs, and it carried on beyond them without language having to be a factor. The same thing happened for Bad Bunny. My kid knows more Spanish from Bad Bunny songs than anything else. Cultural authenticity can reach industrial scale because we don't buy into just the songs anymore. You buy into what's happening in pop culture, you buy into the visuals, you buy into the social media experience, the fandom. And the mantra now is, we do not go pop, pop comes at us. Brat is an abrasive album for most of the population. It's not an easy listen if you like traditional pop music. But all of these are rooted, whether her in the queer adjacent party scene, whether Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico, BTS in South Korea, they have actual cultural authenticity. And you'll notice that the scale with which people can operate is limited without it. Timothée Chalamet, perhaps the most interesting one, where he's able to embrace his love of the Knicks and his New York culture and the film references and how deep he is inside his own world and comfortable in being this kind of next generation savant of so many things that people see themselves in, and being able to love New York sports and love college football and love film equally and be authentic about it, versus a lot of people who simply just aren't that interesting, who don't have anything to be intensely passionate about. And there's a huge difference there. And what I'll call out is you'll need to change yourself to do it. That the more in touch you are with however native that is to you, wherever you are in the world, whatever that true culture that you actually represent is, the more powerful it is to not try and change, to not be apologetic about it, to lean into it as a through line in what you do in a world where everything mashes together, that more and more people have an appreciation for so much about the world because of how we consume now. So anyway, I know this is a very different type of video from some of the ones I've done before, but continues this art direction and creative direction through line. Next week, I'll be back and we'll be talking about luxury. As always, we are doing monthly community calls. Another big one coming the last week of February. I'd love to have all y'all join. We'll have the link down below. This is just covering the tip of the world you can get into of Bad Bunny's visuals and art direction, of music and culture in general. If you enjoyed it, when we talk about any other artists or people, I'm always looking for recommendations.
Nice video. See, the thing about being creative is you just got to be creative and think about what you want to do and have a precise picture and execute. That's it, right? And especially for these guys, Bad Bunny and them, they do, they just do it on a high level. But, just to anyone, just try and just do it. Just think about it and do it.